Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Yesterday, on Discord during a Q&A event, I was asked what my thoughts are on the new sounds in update 7.3, and my answer was I haven't actually tried it, because I'm a little busy at the moment, but my curiosity was piqued somehow, and the patch notes said that we now have enhanced gun sounds, and they have upgraded the gun sounds to deliver a more realistic and impactful audio experience. We will now hear a remarkable reverberating echo from the shells, adding a new layer of immersion in every battle. So obviously I figured there will be controversy about it, and from what I've heard or seen in the comments, a lot of people seem to not like the audio changes and the sounds that are now in the game. So I thought, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, I could just make a video and listen to the sounds and saying, yeah, no, it's not great. Or we could do something a little bit more productive. So I thought to myself, what is it that they are actually promising here, and what is it that we actually want? Well, the promise is more realistic sounds, which is something that I enjoy. Principally, more realistic sounds, but what did guns actually sound like? Now, one of the unfortunate side effects of historical recordings is that the audio is either absent or complete garbage, or the whole thing has been overlaid by music, which doesn't help if you're trying this. Now, fortunately for us, the Americans, in their general grace, have kept some of the Iowa-class battleships around after the Second World War and actually used them with firing their main guns. So there is a bit of footage around that you can occasionally find of the sound of an Iowa-class battleship's main guns. So these are 16-inch main guns, and the best one I found was from the USS Wisconsin, which we don't have in the game, but we do have the USS Iowa herself. Now, I was looking for a sound that would be representative of what you hear when you're on the ship. So not for something that you hear from another ship about a couple of kilometers away. And there's a bit more stuff out there. I think there's a video that claims to be Bismarck's original sounds, but the audio is actually fake. I think it's from a game and has been overlaid over the historical footage. So the USS Wisconsin firing her main guns was a relatively good audio from the forward deck of the ship with the main guns firing. So I figured, well, let's compare her to the Iowa in-game. So I went into the training room and recorded the USS Iowa, and it sounds something like this. This is just the main guns firing. And compare that to the Wisconsin. So there's a definite difference between the two. So if we are going to, I've been firing a little bit slower than the historical footage of the Wisconsin, so let's try to adjust that for speed and get roughly about the same sequence of firing out. First Iowa in the game, and then the historical USS Wisconsin. So there's a definite difference, and what I've done next is just extracted the audio and slightly adjusted it for volume. So here we have the audio extract from, I am not an expert in audio work or anything, here we have the audio extract from the USS Wisconsin historically firing. And you can hear the rumble and the sort of reverberation that we get out of this, because these are massive guns and they shake everything. And there's definitely an ongoing effect from that we can hear in the background. So if we compare that to what the Iowa sounds like in game, I would say there are two things that we can notice. First of all, the actual sound of the gun itself firing is not that far off. Also, the game has brought in a nice stereo effect, and you can see that relatively clearly here. So we're firing the forward we're firing the forward turrets, the first two turrets. This is the upper one is the left channel, the lower one is the right channel, and you can see that the right channel is significantly louder because the guns are positioned to your right when you're firing from the position I was recording, and then the rear turret is actually positioned left of my assumed bridge position. And then that is actually louder on the left channel than it is on the right channel. So there's a nice kind of stereo effect going on that allows you to, feel a bit more immersed. What I'm completely missing is the echo, the reverberation, the feeling of, sea or earth shaking sound, the impact of these sounds, because they feel flat. The actual bark of the guns is not that far off. So and then let's listen to the actual Wisconsin again. There's almost like a hissing sound from the gases emerging, and obviously the very loud and impactful sound, but there's an underlying rumble that's just not there, and that sort of makes that feel flat. So I thought, well, what if we actually took the rumbling from the Wisconsin footage and overlaid that over the Iowa's guns? So these are the Iowa's guns as they are in game. And then I've just taken a sample from Wisconsin's rumble after the fact, and I've just amplified that a little bit, and I've just overlaid that with each firing sequence here, and that's what that would sound like. And I think that would be a massive improvement, because that really just gives us the difference between a smaller gun, which has a loud barking sound, and the sort of aftershock of one of those big guns firing, and the sound waves bouncing around, and just everything being a bit shaken after the effect. Because that's sort of what we want, right? We want to feel the guns. That's what the sound is there for. So I think there would be a relatively easy way to significantly improve the existing audio samples just by, and I've done nothing else, just by putting a bit more of that in there and make them not feel so falling flat. There's another useful piece of historical footage, and that is from the USS Salem, which is a Des Moines class heavy cruiser. So let's listen to that and see what that sounds like and how it compares to the Salem in game. And again, I think it's actually not that far off the mark. Obviously, this is much older footage than what I had first from the USS Wisconsin, which was a comparatively more recent one. But it's not that far off the mark, and I think if we just added just some small we could add some small factors in, and I haven't actually gone to the trouble of trying to extract and do that. But if you listen to the historical footage again, you'll notice that there's sort of a whistling sound of the shells piercing. So again, I feel like the problem here is not in the actual sound itself. The sound of the gun itself is not bad. It's the ambient sound that's missing, which gives us the feel of, ferocity that you have from these rapid-firing guns. That just kind of isn't there as much in the game. And so if we're proposing any kind of further improvements, I'd say that would be a good thing to focus on these sort of surrounding and ambient sounds, on the reverberation, on the bone shaking bass on the big guns. Talking about big guns, so how about really big guns in the game? So if we had, for example, the Incomparable, which has 510mm guns, and which are, at this point, the largest guns in the game. Let's listen to the Iowa again for comparison. So this is the Iowa with 16-inch or 406mm guns firing. And this is the HMS Incomparable firing 510mm guns. Yeah, they sound exactly the same. And that to me, again, is just a problem, because you want to feel bigger guns. You don't want 510mm guns sound like 406mm guns. What's the point in that? You want to feel that you're firing these massive guns because you're doing a huge amount of damage. And audio design is so important for the feel of the game, in my opinion. So last thing I've done is I've taken that Incomparable clip and firing, and I've actually overlaid it with the sound from World of Warships PC. Now I don't have World of Warships PC, and I don't have an Incomparable there, so I have nicked that. But this is what it would sound like if we were using the PC sounds of 510mm guns in game. And that is a massive difference. Well, first of all, the guns are super deep and rumbling, and I don't actually particularly like that much. I think the actual gun sound is sort of lacking the bark. It's lacking the sharpness that we have. But what is there is that ongoing underlying rumble, the splashes of the water coming back down after it's been disturbed by the blast wave from these massive guns. It's the ambient sounds that are making that would make the big difference here, and I hope that at least with the intended attempt, that this goes in the same direction, because again, what they said was a more realistic audio experience and a reverberating echo from the shells, which I honestly don't really feel, and I think. It's not so much an echo from the shells, but it's more the sort of ongoing underlying rumble that is sort of the aftershock of that earthquake of firing these guns. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I would love to see, and I think it could make a really, really good improvement if we can get that right. Anyway, that's all for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.